Before we get started on the director of football and his portfolio of players that he wants to sign for West Ham, and of course all the money he's going to have to spend because we expect the Declan Rice deal to be concluded very, very soon, I should probably start by sharing leaked images of the new West Ham kit. There it is. I'll pop it up there or there. It's, I think, was it the Centenary kit that had the bubbles on it? I think so. I think it might have been the Centenary kit, something like that. It seems like they've gone to try and pay homage to the Centenary kit, and someone said, what I want you to do is put a sort of a watermark of bubbles on the kit. And I think when he said bubbles, they heard it as onion rings. So we got the onion ring kit, which is which you got. They've got like Pat Butcher's earrings, actually, a little bit, don't they? I don't think it's a bad kit, to be fair. They just don't look like bubbles. I don't care. It's a kit's a kit. I guess I would have preferred white shorts. Being fussy doesn't really matter, I guess. Right, an awful lot has happened, and I mean an awful lot has happened in the last 24 hours, which of course is Arsenal made the big bid. We've covered that, 105 million. Man City pulled out of the running, out of the bidding, giving Arsenal a free run at it. There have been little rumours that Declan Rice really wants us to accept the Arsenal offer, which I can absolutely understand. And there have been... You're not going to know this unless you've been on the internet. If you've not been on social media, you've not been reading the comments on here, you won't know what I mean when I say Arsenal fans. They're a unique fan base. I've got to give them that. They really are. So they would be, well, I was going to say they should be happy that they're getting a player. Doesn't seem that way. But they're getting a really, really good player. I'm sure Declan will do really, really well for them. However, what it means is, it means that we're going to have this transfer war chest. It's a funny one, isn't it? A war chest. Now, with this transfer war chest, how much of it is going to be given to Tim Steidten? Now, when I say Tim Steidten, I say it with a certain assurance, don't I? And that is because the rumour is that he starts work on the 1st of July. Soon. Really soon. It's the 28th now. Now, we spoke with Barry Siltman a couple of days ago. And when we spoke to him, now it's very important to obviously quantify that Barry Siltman's done a lot of business with West Ham. He was the guy that got the deal over the line for Lucas Paqueta. And so, you know, I think he knows a lot about the goings on. He very much said, the director of football is the most important signing of the summer, and he's arriving at West Ham with a portfolio of players. Now, that's really important, and I wouldn't expect anybody to sign without the assurance that you're going to go and be able to buy players. Now, this sort of links into somebody who we're rumoured to have bid for. Not only rumoured to have bid for, the Italian press sources are suggesting that we've already made a bid for Denis Zakaria. Now, I think Denis Zakaria is something like 26 years of age. On the face of it, would it be somebody that maybe a director of football coming in would look to sanction that transfer? I think sometimes you can overthink it. It's easy to think, a director of football, everyone's going to be 19, 20, 21, that sort of age. And not necessarily. I think if a player of value comes up who is known to you, then you're going to sign him. And... you know, he is known to him because obviously as Zakaria played in Germany, played for Mönchengladbach, he's going to be very much known to Tim Steidten. Now, apparently West Ham have bid £13 million for him. So we do it in pounds rather than euros. Juventus have turned around and said, no, that's not enough. They want 4 million more. They want 17 million. It's a very different negotiation, isn't it, to what we've been dealing with obviously West Ham and Arsenal and Declan Rice. I think, you know what, you can't have it both ways. And I think if we were asking Arsenal to respect our valuation of Declan Rice, we should probably be respecting Juventus' evaluation of Denis Zakaria. That being said, I don't think there's anything wrong with negotiating at all. So I'm pretty sure a compromise can be reached on there. I like him. I think he's a good player. I know he didn't work out so well at Chelsea, but let's be perfectly blunt here. A lot of players didn't work out at Chelsea last season. Raheem Sterling, what happened to him? I mean, he was absolutely flying at Manchester City, wasn't he? And then people say, Man City, they've made a mistake letting him go. And it turns out, well, actually they didn't. They won the treble and Sterling was pretty poor. But I don't blame Sterling. Everybody at Chelsea was pretty poor last season. That's why I don't want to overly judge Zakaria on that. Also, He's not pulled up any trees at Juventus either. Again, I don't think that's a massive reflection on him. I think he's better suited to the Premier League, funny enough. And let's be fair, Lucas Paqueta also was, he flopped. Let's put it that way. Let's call it what it is. He flopped at AC Milan, had to go to France, resurrect his career, and then obviously come to West Ham. That's another transfer rumour as well, by the way, isn't it? That Paris Saint-Germain might be interested in Lucas Paqueta. There aren't too many clubs who can afford to buy players off Premier League teams. We've seen it in Italy at the moment. Napoli, Lazio, one of them wants to buy, I think it might be Napoli, wants to buy Wilfried Zaha. They can't afford him. None of their players, even their top earner, is on €4.5 million, whereas Zaha at Crystal Palace was on 7. Basically, Napoli can't afford to buy Crystal Palace players. That's nothing to do with Crystal Palace. It's just how much money there is in the Premier League. There are very few clubs that can afford to buy Premier League players from Premier League teams. Paris Saint-Germain are certainly one of them. So if they want Lucas Paqueta, they get Lucas Paqueta. But what that brings me back to is this £100 million that we're going to have to spend. I think we'll actually have a bit more to spend than that. You would assume it doesn't go very far on players, but when you look and think, hold on, we might even get Denis Zakaria for 15 million, maybe if we meet in the middle, 15 million. There's a lot of value on the continent to buy players, and that is because nobody on the continent has got anywhere near, unless you are oil rich like Paris Saint-Germain, nobody has got anything like the money of Premier League clubs. And that is why we're able to go and buy Scamacca for 35 million, yet there's not a single Serie A club that can buy Scamacca back off of us for 35 million. It's why Torino had a deal, a loan to buy option at 13 million euros, and they can't afford 13 million euros. They're trying to get it down to 10, and that's including the add-ons. It's hard to say that anyone's skint. Anyone that can afford to pay a footballer millions of euros each year are not skint. They're not poor. But they're earning a third of what the Premier League teams are earning. And because of that, there really are good bargains. This is why it's really important that we nail down this director of football and get a director of football. Because actually there are good fullbacks out there that you can buy for about 10 million. You don't have to go around spending £50 million on anyone and everyone. And I would hope that we would do that. I think it's really exciting. Now, I don't believe for a second that David Moyes is going to have no money to spend. However, I do believe that the majority of the spending is going to have to go through the director of football. And rightly so. David Moyes is probably not going to be here next season. I would hope the director of football will be. I would hope the director of football, this would be the ideal for me, would be in place for the next, 5 years, something like that. Maybe I'm being optimistic. But the director of football is going to be here longer than David Moyes. So absolutely, he should be picking the bulk of the players. If David Moyes has got his eye on one player he really thinks is going to make his team tick and make the difference, then he's got to go, then absolutely give him that one player. But if we're going to buy 5 players, for instance, I'd certainly think the director of football should be buying 4 of them. I'll take you back to something else that Barry Silkman said. And what he said was, not only was the director of football the most important signing for West Ham this summer, but also West Ham cannot afford to get any of their transfers wrong. And that's really important to say that, because whilst Lucas Paqueta, if you make a profit on him, I don't want to sell Lucas Paqueta. Let me make that absolutely clear. I don't want to sell him. But if we did, you'd probably end up a player that we bought for 50 million, we'd probably sell on for 75, 80. We don't normally buy and sell that well. I'd like to keep him. But by and large, it's hard to make a case that everybody that David Moyes bought is worth more. Is Flynn Downs worth more? Is Maxwell Cornet worth more? Is Areola worth more? I think, in those instances, the answer is no. Is Paqueta worth more? Yeah, absolutely. Agurd, I don't know, maybe about the same. Kera, it's hard. It's hard to make the case for everyone individually. Danny Ings, Scamacca, no. You can't afford to get these transfers wrong because you can't lose all these big amounts of money. And for that reason, I think he's going to get the bulk of it to spend. I'm talking about Tim Steidten, who we expect to join on the 1st of July. And everyone's reporting that, by the way. One final thing. Do you remember the other day? I said, I need to change that UEFA Europa Conference League. I said, it's a mouthful. I said, it's a terrible name. It's an horrible name. Why don't they change it? Why don't they change that bloody name they've changed the name. Not because of anything I've said, I'm quite sure. But they've changed the name anyway. So they've dropped the Europa. It is now just a plain old UEFA Conference League. There you go. Much simpler. Not that we've got to worry about it. We're not even in that next season. That's because we won it last season. Oh, by the way, did you hear that? Fiorentina won Alphonse Areola. There you go. Little shoehorned that at the end of the video. Not worth a video on its own. Let's be perfectly honest with you. I'll catch up with you tomorrow.